All right, good morning. I'd like to thank a number of people who have joined us up here today. We're joined by Congressman Joe Morelli, Mayor Malik Evans, Mitch Gruber, the Vice President of Foodlink and also a member of the Rochester City Council, Laura Gustin from Together Now, and Dave Seeley. He's the Executive Director of Rochester Works. We also are going to be joined here today. You're going to hear from all of them in just a moment. We also have Thalia Wright, who is the Commissioner of the Monroe County Department of Human Services. We're here this morning to talk about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP. There are two essentially major issues right now that are impacting SNAP benefits for residents in Monroe County. First is the ongoing federal government shutdown, and the second is the federal legislation passed earlier this year that has changed eligibility rules for the SNAP program. So I want to start by talking about the ongoing federal government shutdown. Last Friday, when we were notified that on November 1st, the federal government's intention is to stop loading benefits onto the cards on November 1st and stop funding the SNAP program. This means that if they do this on November 1st, this will mean that 104,000 Monroe County residents will no longer receive food assistance. This includes more than 36,000 children, more than 22,000 older adults, including, I kid you not, including 18 people who are 100 years old or over. If this funding lapses, it is a slap in the face to our older residents, our seniors, to lower wage workers in our community who are working to put food on the table for their families and keep a roof over their head, to people with disabilities who make up the vast and who combined make up the vast majority of SNAP recipients in our county. President Trump's use of access to food as a bargaining chip in the federal shutdown is disgraceful. To threaten that most basic need, knowing full well that neither states, counties, or charities can afford to cover that expense, it's heartless, it's abhorrent. SNAP is a lifeline for our most vulnerable residents. It puts food on the tables of Monroe County residents, and this affects every town, every village, and every corner of our county, from Webster to Greece to Scottsville to Pittsford, including children, older adults, individuals with disabilities. SNAP benefits literally save lives in our community. And I want you to look at the poster here to my right, your left, with information about the delays that we could see with the SNAP benefits next month. But today our message also has to be that Monroe County residents still need to keep applying for their SNAP benefits, and they still need to recertify for SNAP, and they still need to provide the required periodic reports to DHS. So even with the lapse in funding that was announced to occur here on November 1st, we still need our residents to maintain their eligibility for SNAP benefits and follow the new eligibility requirements that were put in place earlier this year. It is vital that you do this because once the shutdown ends, we're going to be able to allocate these funds to people who are entitled to the program, but you need to be entitled to the program and still maintain your eligibility. So it's important to note that it's also important to note that any money that you have left on your EBT card prior to November 1st, so if the shutdown still occurs on November 1st, any SNAP benefits that are still on your EBT card will carry over and still be valid to use to purchase food in November. So the balance left at the end of this month will still carry over. However, you may not receive any additional funds on the EBT card. So we're asking everybody to go to New York State OTDA website, otda.ny.gov. It's listed on the poster here to my right. That will also give updates on the shutdown delays. So as I said, today's press conference, though, isn't just about the shutdown. It's also about something that's going to affect our SNAP residents in the next few months, even after the shutdown ends. Major cuts made by the president in July include the implementation of work rules for some SNAP recipients. Now, understandably, that has also created confusion and anxiety amongst people who depend on this assistance. So that's why we're all here today to also announce that the Monroe County Department of Human Services will be sending mailers in the coming days to thousands of SNAP recipients. The mailers are going to look like this. So thousands of SNAP recipients in our community will receive one of these in the mail over the next couple of days. These mailers will answer key questions for our residents. Who's exempt from the new work rules, who is not. So it'll explain what the new work rules are and what the exemptions are. And it will also say if you are not exempt, what steps you must take to be able to keep your benefits. Okay, so if you are impacted by the new requirements, it'll give you the information you need to meet those new requirements. The new work rules apply to those recipients that they've now designated as able-bodied adults without dependents, otherwise known as ABODs. These are SNAP recipients between the ages of 18 and 64 who are physically and mentally able to work and do not have a child under the age of 14 in their household. So if you receive SNAP, please watch your mail. If you are categorized as an ABOD, you will receive a letter outlining exactly what you need to do to maintain your eligibility for your SNAP benefits. The mailing will outline qualifications, exemption status, as well as work requirements for those who are not exempt, which includes working at least 20 hours a week, participating in a job program, or completing an approved volunteer work exercise. The information and forms included in the mailing are posted at monroecounty.gov. So any resident can really go to monroecounty.gov right now and see what the information is that is being mailed out, so you can get a head start on that. And they could also call 585-753-5386 with any questions. We are also urging everyone who's receiving SNAP benefits to ensure that your address and phone number is current with the County Department of Human Services and with the U.S. Post Office so that you continue to receive these important updates as they become available. There is no reason to panic about your eligibility. There is still time. Able-bodied adults without dependents will continue to receive, be eligible to receive SNAP benefits through February, but they have to take action soon to keep their benefits. So we're really urging our SNAP beneficiaries to please take that action to ensure that you are eligible if you fall into the ABOD category, to do that sooner rather than later. Monroe County is fortunate to have strong partners, and that's why you see so many people standing up here and in front of me who are helping to get this message out and will provide assistance to SNAP recipients who have questions. So you're going to hear from these individuals today. So again, watch your mail. The information you need to keep your benefits will be there, and there are a lot of people in this community to help. So take action now so you do not lose your eligibility. We need to make sure that everybody, again, I'll just keep underscoring this, is that we need to make sure we're doing two things at once here: supporting individuals who may lose that funding November 1st, but then even despite the status of the funding on November 1st, equally important, our message today is to pay attention to the new rules, to understand the work requirements, and make sure you maintain that eligibility so that moving forward you are still eligible to receive that monthly benefit. So I'm going to turn it over to our next speaker, and I want to tell you we are incredibly lucky. I feel very blessed that we have a federal representative who is fighting for us in Washington and agrees that this decision by President Trump is disgraceful, because using food as leverage in a political fight like this is unacceptable, and our congressman is fighting for our residents here at home, and I feel like we're very lucky and blessed to have him representing us in Washington. So I'd like to invite up Congressman Joe Morelli to offer some remarks.
Good morning, and thank you to the county executive for his extraordinary leadership, as well as our great friend and partner, Mayor Malik Evans, Mitch Gruber, who does double duty from Foodlink and as a member of City Council, Laura Gustin from Together Now, and Dave Seeley from Rochester Works, as well as Commissioner Wright, Commissioner of the Department of Human Services. And we shouldn't have to be here this morning, but under Donald Trump's leadership, we continue to get chaos and create one crisis after another. And this began, months ago with a decision to throw 3 million Americans, including nearly 1 million senior citizens, off SNAP just to fund tax breaks for billionaires. That was the centerpiece of the efforts that were made this summer, signed by the president in July. So people should remember this. That's number one. And we're making it even worse now by precipitating a crisis by withholding reserve funding for SNAP, effectively cutting SNAP for everyone in America on November 1st. We're going to continue to work this week to try to reverse this, to persuade the president that this is a very, very bad idea, that targeting Americans' most vulnerable people, seniors, children, veterans, the poor, isn't the way the federal government works. He continues to use this essentially and hold people hostage, holding effectively a gun to the heads of the weakest people in our society, threatening to hurt them if he doesn't get what he wants. And we've become accustomed to this. It doesn't have to happen. It's cruel. It's inhumane. It's just plain wrong. Real people are being hurt by what is the equivalent of a schoolyard bully trying to get what he wants. Speaker Johnson and Donald Trump have failed to do their jobs. In fact, in just a couple of hours, I'll head back to Washington, as I have done the last several weeks. But Speaker Johnson has now canceled House proceedings for 6 straight weeks, continuing the paid vacation that his members, while families suffer across this country. But I'll be there. My Democratic colleagues will be there. We'll continue to be there in the hopes that the Republicans will see the light here. And just to be clear, in this immediate crisis, if it happens on November 1st, it's because the president refuses to use reserve contingency funds that have been set aside for this purpose to keep SNAP running. Instead, he's off making with global dictators and doing whatever it is that he does. But he won't spend the $2 billion to continue SNAP, but he can find $40 billion for Argentina. You know, any decent, honorable, caring president would move heaven and earth to help preserve the people that he represents. This one goes out of his way. Cruelty apparently is the object of his work. You know, Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew describes a righteous person saying, "For when I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me." So we're going to continue to fight to make sure this doesn't happen. But this is up to the president. He has the power to do it. Shutdown or no shutdown, he's using it as an excuse. I want to talk about the reason we originally came here, which was shortly after the reconciliation bill, which was going to target 3 million Americans, including nearly 1 million seniors, with new requirements. We came together, county executive, myself, the mayor, Mitch and Foodlink, Laura, and Together Now, Dave Seeley, Rochester Works, and a number of folks to talk about what we will do to try to make sure we overcome the barriers that are going to be put in place in front of the most vulnerable people, those people targeted in the January bill. So we're going to make sure that we do everything we can. We're going to move heaven and earth, as I said, to make sure every eligible person gets their benefits. And we'll keep calling out the administration for targeting men, women, children. But we're going to find ways to overcome this. And I think when we gathered shortly after the president signed the bill, I said to the colleagues standing with me, there are 435 members of the House of Representatives. I want to have the district, #1 in the nation, for the fewest people to be kicked off SNAP benefits because we've put new bureaucratic red tape in their way. We're going to help them overcome this. We're going to try to take care of people. We're going to continue to make sure our flock is cared for. And with that, I'm proud to introduce my friend and my partner, the great mayor of the city of Rochester, Malik Evans.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you for all your work and for going back to Washington and fighting the good fight. Just let me say this. I think that we are dealing with two distinct issues here, as has been outlined by the county executive and our great congressman. And let's be clear. There's a Category 5 hurricane barreling to Jamaica. That is a natural disaster. That is an act of God. That is something that none of us can control. But the nonsense that we're seeing coming out of federal government, that is completely manufactured and something that we can control. And we have 2 buckets of things that we're dealing with right now. The most immediate thing, obviously, is the government shutdown that is now entering its almost 30th day. And the fact that come November 1st, there are people who may not be able to get access to their SNAP benefits. And that is unconscionable. And as the congressman said, we should call on Washington to use those reserves to make sure that people do not go hungry. I had a town hall yesterday. I had probably close to 6,000 people on it. I was trying to talk about trash pickup and other things, but every question I got was about SNAP and what's going to happen with SNAP. So that's one issue that we're dealing with. That's the immediate issue. But the more sinister, sick issue that a lot of people don't know about, and why the county executive brought us together here today at Foodlink to talk about, is this bureaucratic boondoggle in which they are trying to get more people off SNAP to make it extremely hard. It's almost like, here, we want you to solve this Rubik's Cube, and if you solve it, then you will be able to eat. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, that this just does not affect people in the city of Rochester, because there's this perception that it's just like these poor, lazy folks, and most of them live in the city. This affects 42 million Americans, 12% of the population that rely on SNAP, that can be kicked off at a date certain if they don't provide recertification, showing that they're able-bodied, all these things to make it this easy, to make it as hard as possible to prove that you are eligible for food. So I want to applaud the county executive for this effort. That item that's going to come in the mail, we need to cut through the confusion and say to people, fill out those forms, be in contact with Monroe County, and make sure that this congressional district, this city, this county has the highest number of people who are not kicked off. So remember, we're dealing with two things at the same time. It's kind of like an octopus with a lot of arms when you're dealing with what the heck's coming out of Washington. And the two arms of the octopus that we're dealing with right now is come November 1st, and that's the government shutdown that's happening, and we hope that people will come to their good senses and SNAP will continue to be funded. But even more important is the incoming train that are going to hit people as it relates to, are you eligible, are you not eligible, in this trivia test that you're going to have to take to make sure that you are still eligible for SNAP. We are going to make sure that people know. We want to make sure that you fill those items out. We want to make sure that our friends in the media, those on social media, that they go up and talk about what is necessary in order to make sure that you are still eligible for SNAP. And then let's also remind people that there are veterans on SNAP, that there are working people on SNAP. There are some people who work 2 jobs on SNAP. And that is the message that we also must send. So we are going to try to do everything we can to help keep those benefits. I cannot be more grateful to Monroe County and our partners for standing rock solid for the people who rely on SNAP, but we are urging the people whose SNAP benefits are at risk to also stand rock solid with us. We cannot do this by ourselves. So we are saying, open those letters as soon as they arrive in your mailbox and learn what you can do to keep those benefits. Access to healthy food is a basic human right. Food, clothing, and shelter. And guess what? It goes in that order for a reason. Food is on the top of that hierarchy of needs. It's an access, it's a human right, and Rochester and Monroe County are standing rock solid to protect that basic right. And the first step starts with those letters. So open up those letters, and we'll deal with this other nonsense that we're dealing with as we get to November 1st. But we don't want people to forget. Those letters are coming, and you have to make sure you answer the call. Thank you. And next, it's my pleasure to introduce the president of Together Now, Ms. Laura Gustin. Laura.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who already spoke. So if you don't know, Together Now is here to help the community navigate the services they need. And as part of that effort, we operate My Wayfinder, which is an online platform designed by and with community. My Wayfinder acts as a digital one-stop for finding community resources, connecting users with an amazing network of community-based organizations providing services across health, education, and social supports. In partnership with Monroe County, Together Now has developed the SNAP Work Rule Screener which is available on my Wayfinder homepage and linked via the Monroe County SNAP benefits website. Community members who currently receive SNAP benefits can use the screener to easily check if their SNAP eligibility will be impacted. From there, impacted SNAP beneficiaries will be provided with the instructions and tools they need to maintain their benefits. This may include gathering documentation and uploading to the New York State Doc Submit portal. For those who are in the category of able-bodied adults without dependents, or ABOD, the screener will direct them to workforce partners such as Rochester Works, along with other job-seeking and volunteer opportunities. The SNAP Work Rules Screener is currently available in English and Spanish and will be deployed alongside county resources in the days ahead. The screener is free to use and can be accessed without creating a My Wayfinder account. If community members using the screener need additional help, they can call 211 for support. Together Now will also be training partner organizations to assist community members in accessing the SNAP Work Rules Screener. Organizations interested in participating in this training should contact Together Now via our website. We created the SNAP Work Rules Screener to help you understand federal changes, what the federal changes in SNAP eligibility mean for you. So head to my-wayfinder.org to take the screening, pursue next steps, and find additional support you may need. And from there, I'd like to introduce Mitch Gruber.
Hi, I'm Dave Seeley from Rochester Works. Mitch Gruber said I had to go next and not to forget to introduce him. Thank you, Laura. And it's important that Laura and I kind of went back to back because our role in this kind of ties off one another. I just want to say first and foremost, there's 33 versions of Rochester Works across the state representing the local workforce board. I can say this with great affirmation that in no part of the state is there this level of coordination between government, the human services sector, and it's not just lip service. It's a functional strategic alignment that really allows us not just to have press conferences, but to actually implement strategic initiatives that help meet the crisis as they come. Nowhere else in the state they have a version of Together Now. When I try to explain to my colleagues what Together Now is, I probably fumble a little bit. So that's something we shouldn't take for granted, but I think that's why we're able to kind of get ahead of this more so than other communities. Rochester Works, we've been a long time collaborator with the county, largely through their temporary assistance programming. We already offer employment programming that satisfies work requirements for those on temporary assistance. So this isn't something entirely new. It's something we're used to doing, a partnership like this, allowing people to participate in employment activities to maintain a benefit that's provided by the government. However, we're now seeing it on a grander scale than we've probably never seen before, and at a crisis level. One, as was said before, was really completely manufactured and unnecessary. But that said, Rochester Works, along with the entire workforce community, is committed to ensuring that we can help those who are at risk for losing their benefits to navigate the required job training opportunities that exist in our community. And those opportunities are out there. Talk to any employer. They are still out there. Thank God. Our economy has remained resilient. But our job as a community is to knock down those barriers to employment, because we know so well that the formula is not as just simple as the job seeker and the job being in the vicinity of one another. It's not as simple as that. That's why we're encouraging all SNAP recipients who believe that they will have to meet new work requirements to keep their benefits to, after they ideally visit the screening portal that Laura just outlined at My Wayfinder, to reach out to Rochester Works. Many of these individuals at risk for losing their benefits are not currently engaged in the workforce. That's something we have to acknowledge, which is why we largely encourage them, before maybe just going on a job search on their own, interacting with a career service advisor that we have. At Rochester Works, we have over 700 hours of collective experience in workforce development and career counseling at our agency. Spend an hour with a career advisor. Understand how to formulate your job search. Put your resume together. Learn some basic interviewing skills. Those are things we can help an individual with. In addition to over 30 different workshops we offer that cover different job readiness criteria. The way you can do that is by calling 258-3500. You can also set up an appointment with a career advisor by visiting rochesterworks.org, or you can just pay us a visit at 100 College Avenue. We are here to help. Our traffic has increased by 16% already in this year, but we understand that's because a need is arising. The workforce, the labor market is tightening in general. This will only make our efforts more profound. I'll note we already have programs that exist to help people who might not be perhaps experienced or emergent in the job force as at present. We have a program like the SHIFT program that we started this year, which provides both resources pre and post employment to help job seekers who have had difficulty sustaining employment. We have a success coach there to help you. So my message to the community of individuals who might be intimidated by this, who might feel they're not ready to enter the workforce and are worried about the consequences, you have a community that's here to help you, to provide resources. We've never seen a crisis this quick, I think, where we have this many people who might need services in this short of a time because of a crisis that was manufactured by something that had nothing to do with the job market. However, it is our role to be here to help. I will say this, if you're a business that is hiring, let's say, if you're a business that's hiring, I encourage you, continue to use all the resources that you use, but I also encourage you to use www.greaterrockcareers.com. That's an initiative jointly administered between the Chamber of Commerce and Rochester Works. It is our primary job portal that has thousands of open positions right now that are full-time, part-time, and temporary. And I encourage employers, use that. That is the primary mechanism by which our career advisors refer jobs to our job seekers, because it is employers generally we have a strong relationship with. And for all the job seekers seeking, I encourage you to use that site as well. That is the primary site that Rochester Works uses, www.greaterrockcareers.com. I'll just say this in closing. I'm looking out and I see a lot of agencies that we work with to help both in employment programs, and I see the ARC and I see Trillium, and we work together because we're helping in many ways the same primary service population. And I think we all know that for somebody who has food insecurity and also might not be employed, the pathway to economic sustainability is challenging. There are multiple barriers, food insecurity being one of them, one of the most profound ones. We also know that something that can be as destabilizing as this can have such a profound long-term impact on individuals, which is why I think it's so critical that we continue to come together as a community and meet the Congressman's challenge to be the area of the country that has the lowest people losing their benefits, because I think we know that when a destabilizing event like this happens, it will take years, if not decades, to help rebuild from. So I'm very glad to be here. I'm very glad to have my partners in here. And you know, we don't look forward to working together because we wish this wasn't a manufactured crisis. However, I think we're committed and willing to do so. We have since the summer, and we'll continue to do so really for the next several years. So I'm going to now introduce the Vice President of Foodlink, Mitch Gruber.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to try to wrap up a lot of messages in a bow, and I will do my best to be as succinct as possible, but it's not one of my strengths. Let me first start by acknowledging that our President and CEO, Julia Tedesco, is traveling back to Rochester as we speak and sends her regrets that she couldn't be here. And let me also welcome everyone to Foodlink, which is the regional food bank. We distribute about 25 million pounds of food a year. And the reason why we're here is because when SNAP cuts happen, this is where phone calls come. This is where community organizations ask to find food, where people ask to find food, where businesses ask to donate money or food. So before I go any further, let me just acknowledge our staff. We have a lot of staff here. Let me acknowledge some of our volunteers, our donors, many of our partners. We have Wegmans here. I have my friend Bob Boyd, who runs St. Peter's Soup Kitchen. And just so everyone knows, we're already starting this at a moment where the need for food is already record high. When I first started going to St. Pete's Soup Kitchen and worked here, they were serving about 100 people lunch per day. And now, Bob, they're serving over 300 people per day, Monday through Friday, lunch right across from Bull's Head on Brown Street. We're already in a crisis. And so today we had really good, thoughtful messaging. You see it on some of the poster boards. You'll see it in the letter that the county executive showed. We had really good, thoughtful messaging around what the impacts of the bill that was passed in July, what it's going to do to people when it comes to eligibility requirements. And I want to just stress that point again. Our primary goal here is to make sure that everybody who has SNAP benefits has every tool possible to maintain SNAP benefits when, in fact, the government is in operation. That's the goal, and I just want to give a special note of thanks to the county executive, Commissioner Wright, Deputy Commissioner Reed. Monroe County has been incredibly thoughtful, and some of the messaging you see here today is certainly some of the most thoughtful of any place in the country. And then you look at the work that Laura talked about with the screening tool and Dave talked about the Rochester Works. We are ready to meet the Congress members' challenge and have as few people removed from SNAP benefits as possible when the OBBBA, that's the only word I'll use to describe it, comes into effect. However, we had all this great messaging, and none of us really thought when we started this conversation about a month ago that we were going to be in a position where right now, I don't think there's anyone who is a SNAP participant who's thinking about anything besides the reality that if the government doesn't act in D.C., SNAP benefits will not be issued in the month of November. And so we have to acknowledge that. We have to do exactly the things that have already been talked about, which is continue to advocate. There's a lot of, this is not a fait accompli yet. There's a lot of advocacy still to be done. 43 million people across the country receive SNAP benefits. This is not just going to impact the people who use SNAP. I cannot begin to talk about the economic impact that SNAP has on farmers, on grocery stores, on retailers. There's a lot of advocacy to be done, and I really encourage people to do so. And so let me just spend 1 minute talking about the importance of SNAP, and then I'm going to give you my kind of last message, which I know is what people want to hear about how Foodlink's going to approach this crisis. But first, just for a sense of SNAP, SNAP itself supports 10 times the number of meals than every food bank across the country combined. And I want to be really clear, Foodlink is not alone. We are one of 200 plus food banks, part of a network called Feeding America. This is a very well-structured, well-organized, fairly sophisticated charitable network. But together, we are still not 1/10 of what SNAP provides to people. At the end of the day, people want money in their pocket to buy the foods they want, much more than they want to go into a food pantry. And we acknowledge that, and that's why our primary objective here is to make sure that SNAP is in fact funded and that people maintain their eligibility. I won't go into all the economic realities of SNAP benefits, but we know that for some retailers, it makes up 25, 30, up to upwards of 50% of all the business they conduct. It has a huge impact on the total economy of Rochester. And those dollars stay local, by the way. All those dollars stay local. So there's a huge impact. We know it's going to hurt, and we're trying our best to prepare. I'm not going to tell everyone, here's all the things that we're going to do to provide food to people, because I'll say that we're going to have a message coming on Friday. If, in fact, the benefits are not reinstated, we're going to have a follow-up companion press conference to announce some additional places where we're pouring food. But right now, we're partnering with places like St. Pete's Soup Kitchen and the 200 plus members across our network to make sure everyone has more access to food than ever before. We started an emergency food fund. We've already raised close to $1 million, and all of that money is going specifically to purchase food to go in the shelves that you walked through when you came by here. Our partners, like St. Pete's, like Trillium, are going to have more food than they typically have to be able to order off our shopping list, for sure. And if, in fact, benefits are not issued on November 1st, we'll be prepared to have additional announcements of ways we can support the community. But right now, I can't stress this enough, the biggest thing that we would ask people to do is to advocate. Continue to use our website, foodlinkny.org, if you want to find a food pantry near you. We've already seen around 100% increase in visits to our website in the last week. People are already panicked out there. We know that when people are panicking, when people are desperate, bad things happen. We're encouraging everyone to continue to advocate, to continue to check our website, open the mail from Monroe County. Those are the most important things that we can share. And the last thing I want to do, something I never thought I would do before, I'm going to quote a op-ed from Senator Josh Hawley in the New York Times this morning. Josh Hawley ended this op-ed by saying, Josh Hawley is a Republican senator from Missouri. Congress can still pass legislation during a shutdown, and it should pass my bill to keep SNAP benefits going. Last I checked, members of Congress are still getting paid. Republicans blame Democrats, and Democrats blame Republicans, but all these people have food to spare. One suspects that if senators couldn't buy groceries, the government would never close down again. Hunger needs to be a bipartisan issue. Feeding people is a bipartisan issue. We all need to figure out how to get together and make sure SNAP benefits are, in fact, reissued for the month of November. And if not, please know, and to the media, we will have a companion announcement on Friday to make sure that people know how they can get the most food they can. But I want to be clear, there's nothing the Charitable Network can do to fill the gap of SNAP benefits not being issued. So with that, I think we're going to take any questions that people may have. Is that right?
Yep. All right. Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, I guess we'll just open up to questions. That's it.
Yeah. Well, first, I appreciate Senator Hawley's comments, and I read his column this morning. I will also note Senator Hawley voted to cut Medicaid benefits and then put a bill in the next day to repeal what he had just voted for. So he has this long history of saying one thing and doing another. But I agree with what his column was. But here's the thing. It doesn't require any legislation. He's introducing legislation. It's fine. We would vote for it, but it doesn't need it. There's already congressional authorization to use $6 billion in reserve funds to continue SNAP for the foreseeable future. So this is an excuse used by the president to inflict pain because he thinks that will bring people together. What would really bring people together in Washington, first of all, the Republicans would have to show up for work. I guess that would be one thing. But the second thing is to think about what we're asking. We're asking for one thing. We're asking that health care on the Affordable Care Exchange, which is going to go up in the next several days by hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, that we continue those subsidies. So the president is essentially saying, because I don't want to give you health care and you won't agree to that, I'm now going to take away your food as well. I mean, what president of the United States, I don't care if it's a Republican, Democrat, Federalist, Whig, no president in the 250 years of this republic has ever used the American people as hostages in a game to get his political will met. So, yeah, Josh Hawley, we'll line up. We'll vote for your bill. We don't need to, but if you need to show the people of Missouri you're working hard, that's okay. But what would really be good is to get some movement and to be able to address the concerns of the American people and to do right by American families. Speaker Johnson, who was given the unilateral power by his House Republican colleagues last January to cancel session, has now canceled the 6th straight week of House sessions. So I'll be there. My Democrat colleagues have gone. We've gone every week. We'll continue to go there. We'll continue to ask for them to come to talk to us. You know, what's interesting, they keep saying Democrats shut down the government. The Democrats didn't. The Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. They control the House, the Senate, the White House. If they want the handful of votes necessary to continue to move the government along under the old funding apparatus, because we haven't even gotten to doing new funding, they should talk to us about the things we care about. You know what we care about? We care about health care for the most vulnerable. We care about food for the most vulnerable. Those are the things we're asking for. We're not asking for things that help Democrats. We're asking for things that help Americans.
So we believe that number is roughly 6,000 people are considered ABODs that don't currently meet the requirements of being an ABOD. So they're the ones who are going to receive that letter that were sent out. And then for the other SNAP recipients that are subject to work requirements or things like that, if they're already participating in a work activity, then they're already in compliance with the new eligibility requirements. But you don't have to wait for your letter, though. So one of the most important parts of all this, too, if you currently are a recipient of SNAP and you do have a question about your eligibility because you're seeing this on the news and you didn't receive a letter, and you're just go to our website. That's what the Together Now app and the function is all about, is empowering people who currently receive SNAP benefits to be able to go on and see their eligibility status. Did I answer that correctly? Good. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you.